Happy Thanksgiving. If you're not in the United States, let's give thanks for everything that is good and helpful in our lives. Today's topic is something that I have always been interested in, and that is hobo signs or hobo symbols or graffiti. So I wanted to say, Timber Adventures, thanks you for tuning in and watching our videos. Please like, subscribe, comment, please share. So I first started noticing them on my many trips walking through railroad tunnels over the years, and I've recorded plenty and quite a variety. Most of my pics and info come from north central Pennsylvania. First, some interesting notations. Hobos had symbols and signs that they would carve and leave for other hobos to communicate with other hobos to inform them of details of an area, where they could possibly stay or lay over. So hobos also had an entire different vocabulary with various phrases or words that were only understood by other hobos. Sky pilot meant minister, preacher. When I think of their vocabulary, it reminds me of Australians, so I actually love the concept. But I want to look at signs and symbols. To understand the signs and symbols, you need to understand a little about the life of a hobo. You need some history, and I'll give you a brief history on the birth of what was considered the hobo era. Now, the era did not span just over a few years. It extended over quite some time. Its early roots were said to be in like the 1870s, and I believe that many factors could have contributed to these restless souls. Why do I think it started at this time? Well, I think you could say fairly that it went back to about the mid-1860s. The Civil War ends, a great rebuilding begins, and a great many families were torn apart. Some men were free when they were never free before. Some lost their entire property and homes and houses and family members. The Civil War was a hard reset on some of society. It pushed the boundaries of the U.S. to expand westward soon after, which was a very bad thing for some. But it was the birth of what you would consider the hobo era. I also want to say this. We're clear that many things took place on the Union and the Confederate side of the war that are heavily frowned upon and disgraceful. Many things have taken place following these wars and all the way up till present times and are continuing that are disgraceful. We must learn and educate ourselves as time progresses and see the errors of the past as we learn and travel, but we are a flawed creation. We're not here to talk about those issues. So we won't focus on any of those, but we'll acknowledge them so that we are very aware that they exist. Men were searching for work. They were searching for food, place to stay, a life to live, or somewhere to settle. They began a pattern of traveling by rail from place to place to try to satisfy these goals. Following the Civil War, over 35,000 miles of railroad track were laid out across what would be the United States. This work required workers, and there were plenty that wanted to travel along to work, earn, even use this as an opportunity to learn. They wanted to work and earn until they could find a new town, a point of interest, or a location. Also, with all the new railways, more trains, more men to bum a ride free of charge as well. Just ride along with the cargo and see where fortune leaves them. Another factor for the start of the hobo era possibly is the economic dip of the 1870s. As I've learned from some historical research on various sites and locations, a good deal were built up and brought down by the Depression of the 1870s to be repeated again in the 1930s, which the 1930s are sort of the end of the hobo era years. Yeah, they persisted, but we're focusing on the signs and the era. The era closed as some opportunities were born for these men and others, such as the Civilian Conservation Corps, and then the run-up to World War II. It was just a change in society. But hobo signs and symbols started as chalk or charcoal, with signs being left on curbs near homes, houses, street corners, and such. They would signify a free food available if you tell a hard luck story, or danger, man with gun, or kind lady. But they started as signs on curbs, and then they progressed to carvings. And of course, you can't just carve on curbs and streets when people are caring about their normal daily lives. So these carvings were mostly found near railways, the place of travel. On the blocks of railroad tunnels, underpasses, overpasses, And here we are at Hobo signs. The signs stood for various phrases, tips, guidance. There was a code that they followed amongst themselves. They also had a code of ethics, rules, and laws. They abide by them, and it makes their lives easier for themselves and other hobos. They would cooperate. They would tell others where free healthcare was, free handouts, where danger was, kind of like a cheat sheet instruction manual. There was difference between hobos, traveling and willing to work, and tramps, who travel and mooch and avoid work. There were even specific symbols that I have seen that indicate hobos communicating that tramps will rob you. An upside down triangle meant that the road is spoiled with hobos, or too many hobos in the area. Now, even though there was a code, if I were a hobo and I found a nice honey hole with a job, and it was a nice place where I could work and eat and have it a little bit good, I would probably want others to leave that area or not come around. So I'd probably carve that symbol to deter other hobos. Also, if I were a railroad bull, that's the guy who kicks their asses off trains and out of the cargo cars or off the top of the cars. I might even carve that too to deter them. Now that's just a thought. I don't know if they actually did that, but I have to say that at every single location I have come to and looked for hobo symbols, there's at least one of those upside down triangles. I have noticed a ton of regular triangles as well, just plain triangles. Now sometimes there's not a clear, defined matching symbol with meaning, but I believe these possibly have carvings that had lines that were off of it that are no longer visible or worn. Not sure. Maybe someone out there knows of another meaning for some of these symbols. As we go through them, look at them, and let me know in the comments. For instance, it's said that there's approximately 50 total symbols in the language. I've never seen a 2 over 10, but I've actually seen 1 over 4. There has to be additional symbols that are only known to the people that learned the lingo by listening to Babel. And just for clarity, that is not an endorsement for the Learn Your Language by Babel. I get nothing out of that comment. Even the language within the symbols, as we see, appears to have additional symbols that haven't been defined, such as the multiple connected triangles with lots of lines between them. They do not appear on any hobo key. In my video, I spotted several times the circle with the inner cross, meaning good place for a handout. In the same area, there appears to be a symbol denoting community is indifferent to hobos. Some other signs that I've come across: man with gun, or danger, they will beat you. And I believe this is in reference to tramps rather than townfolk. That exact same symbol can also mean keep away. There's also authorities here are alert. Police frown on hobos. And we do have simple ones such as directional signs. But once again, there's questionable ones. For instance, we don't know the definition. Is this a variation on the symbol for halt? Or is this rather interesting one, something as simple as saying it's okay to sleep in the barn? We will never know all the meanings. And we only know a good number because of the recent history. This is still fresh in the minds of history buffs and not far removed from that hobo era. With all these various symbols, I do question a few things. For instance, how do you know what is the most recent symbol or sign? Which one is newer? Is it old? Can it be saying safe for handouts, yet another symbol showing man with gun? I can only imagine that there was some hidden inner knowing and law among the hobos that applied to this. But one thing I have not come across is areas that have obviously been chipped off or blocked out, where a carving may have been removed. So I did not see where one had been removed at any given time, which leads me to wonder, which symbol is newest? Of additional mention, on each tunnel that I've examined so far, I found a benchmark symbol. These are primarily survey markers for builders or engineers. Each tunnel that I've come across does have a large benchmark, and in fact, I've also found a benchmark on a large boulder that sits near the former B&O Railroad Dam. And before I close out, I want to thank you once again for watching these videos. I hope they're informative, and I hope there's something completely different in a new educational experience. If you like them, please let me know in the comments section, and please share as well as subscribe for more. The hobo era existed up to the 30s, the time of the Great Depression. During this time, the government enacted programs such as the Civilian Conservation Corps. They worked on roadways, forestry areas, state parks to national parks to building structures, ditches, bridges, roadways, redoing swamps and wetland areas. Great example of that is the Hamlin Beach State Park in Hamlin, New York. The CCC gave organization and structure. It also led up to the time of World War II, and the hobo era died off. Once the war was over, prosperity took a hold of the states and life did improve. Yes, there's still some hobos, but not like that era. The New Age hobos tag with spray paint, and not much is known about the relevance of their signs. Do they actually stand for something, or are they just symbolic of themselves? In the era, hobos had court systems, they had conventions. It was a very organized kind of brotherhood. In modern times, "O Brother, Where Art Thou" sings the Big Rock Candy Mountain song, which is all about hoboism in paradise. Original song was written by Mr. McClintock, or Mac, in 1890. But there's so many altered versions are everywhere, like the Coen brothers that you hear on "O Brother, Where Art Thou." Lyrics like "cigarette trees" and "railroad bulls have wooden legs and the bulldogs have rubber teeth. Hens lay soft-boiled eggs, springs of streams of alcohol. The ultimate hobo's easy life." Who knows some famous names out there amongst the hobos? People that may have been intellects, authors, and more. List them in the comments below. As we get ready to finish up, let's hop on and get outside for some adventure. Simply speaking, let's get out of here.